Let's start on Bring a Trailer with this twin plug 3.8 liter powered 1982 Porsche 911 SC Coupe. JP, are you having a little deja vu? Because this car belongs to a good friend of mine that you introduced me to because he's an old great friend of yours, Shoddy.
Bit Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Haggerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds.
This is Shoddy's car, and he gave it to 911R. The car is currently located in Scottsdale, Arizona. Shoddy ran the car with them in July, and it inexplicably didn't do well. The car stalled out and failed to sell at $92,500 in July, like the end of July, the 25th of July. And so I don't think Shoddy got the car back. I think 911R kept it at their offices in Scottsdale. And now, because they have probably the best account with Bring a Trailer in the history of accounts with Bring a Trailer, they are running it again. And I mean exactly like they did it before. The photographs and the copy are all exactly the same. They are simply trying to run it again one more time. They're running it back, as they say in basketball. And the car closes tomorrow. John, are you familiar with this car? Since you've known for Shoddy for a long time, have you seen this car in person?
I have not. He didn't have this at Cars and Cafe in San Francisco, did he?
No, he didn't. No, the car had already been shipped out to Scottsdale. He actually tried to sell it with a consignor in the South Bay, and then decided to give it to 911R because they really have the best reputation, particularly with Porsche, on BAT. So Shoddy's looking for a retail number for this thing. John, it's an incredible build. So it's an 82 SC that Shoddy got, I think, with the steel flares, but I believe Shoddy commissioned the painting of the car, and it's got the oversized RSR rear wing. It's got the IROC front nose with the brake scoops and the big open air for the air cleaner. It's got Group 4 wheels like your car, but I imagine they're wider because of the flares. It's got incredible suspension. So this thing went down to Elephant Racing, and they basically did everything. So the ball joints, the bump steer kit, 930 rear torsion bars, 930 turbo tie rods, upper shock mount bushings, and the RS Star style spring plate bushings. So it doesn't sound like it's overdone with oversized torsion bars. Nothing incredibly, like you could go full track and make this car too stiff, which I haven't driven your car, JP, but I imagine it's probably more compliant than your car is. But it's got all the good things to make sure there's no slack either. If you look at it, JP, what's that fancy steering wheel? The Momo with the deep dish to it. What do you call that?
The
Momo
Mod
wheel?
7.
It's got a Mod 7. It's got a Mod 7. It's got sick Recaro style seats with a plaid interior. It's got RSR door cards, white face gauges. But the big news, John, is that he located a 964 motor. They bored it out to 3.8. It was built by Torque Power Engines of Reno, in California, which I've never even heard of. But anyway, twin plug motor, gold finish fan. It's all the brass lines and all the stuff. It's pretty sick. Rebel Racing engine mounts, Steve Wong chip, custom exhaust, and the exhaust is like a GT3, John. If you can find a photo of looking underneath the car, no heater boxes, no cats, no nothing, just a center collector and twin exit out the back of the car. Although I've never heard this car run except for listening to the video. I imagine in person this thing probably sounds amazing and rips. So Shoddy is running it back, JP. He's looking to get the money that this car deserves. I did not ask him. I did not put him on the spot and ask him what he built on it. But just looking at all the equipment here, you've got bodywork and paint. You've got wheels, tires, and suspension. You've got exhaust, interior, and a motor, like probably a $50,000 motor. I am guessing that you could not replicate this car today for less than $200,000 to $250,000 as the floor for building exactly what you see here. So JP, I send it over to you and Wade and everybody that's watching with us live. What do you think of the way this car turned out? To me, it's very evocative of the car that you got from your buddy
Kelly
I
Smith.
can't think of this. Kelly Smith. It's very evocative of that, as a back date. This is more of an IROC build. Yours is more of like an ST build, being like a long hood. But they're very similar cars. In fact, they'd probably look really dope together for pictures, or a drive out at Red Rock with Lee Patet. But then also, what do you think the value and what do you think is going to happen second time around? Do you think does lightning strike twice? Could it happen? Could he get a better result than he did last time? What do you think?
I don't see how, but I don't have any information as to why it didn't sell the first time around. That's really the key information that I think I'm looking for. It's like what happened the first time? Was it on a football Sunday? Was it was there? I mean, look, here's the thing. I mean, right now this is something that I wanted to bring up. I mean, it's not really about the car, but there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I got to be worried about putting any car up for auction here in the next few weeks. There's talk of war and all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's affecting any other market. So why wouldn't it affect this market? I think, and I think that in general, we're going to see auction prices kind of start to go down, even if those things weren't going on, just because of the time of year. I mean, most of the cars that we talk about here are enthusiast cars, and this is, like we talked about before the break, these types of cars are just going to be put away in most places. I mean, this is the perfect car for Arizona, because then it's just waking up there. You can really enjoy this car, but it gets cold at night in Arizona. To not have heater boxes, that freaks me out. What do you think, Wade?
Yeah, this is a beautiful car. This is the car that I would love to have and drive. Awesome body, love the gold wheels, love the nod to the IROC series. This is a great car that's been put together in a way that's not over the top, but I think is tasteful and really well done. I'm not a huge fan of the interior personally, but overall, great listing. Obviously, it's with somebody who knows how to take amazing pictures, and I'm sure is representing it well. To your point, JP, now is the best time to drive in Scottsdale over the next month or so. Yeah. I mean, driving this car in 75, 80 degrees sunny weather on just the smoothest, clearest roads would be a lot of fun. But just like the last run it back Porsche that we saw, having a listing twice, it's really, really challenging to get the same number again. We don't know why it didn't go through the first time. It seems like a great car, so I can't imagine that's the issue, but there are other worldly issues. The price of gas is high. There are, worldwide events happening, and perhaps 50% of the country is just not interested in buying a car like this because it will be cold. I think it's going to stay on the West Coast. I'm sure somebody in Arizona will end up buying it, or maybe Southern California, because it's already here and it's a West Coast car, and a car like this, you probably want to keep it here. But I am really hesitant to run a car twice, and I hope for the best, but I'm not expecting the best.
Have you ever seen someone just run an ad exactly duplicate of the last time, Michael Deeb, and all you like in all the years that we've been watching this?
I'm trying to think. Everybody has done something slightly different that I can remember. Like the Flying Hawaiian went to a different platform. It got more money. The RSR that we covered earlier tonight skipped over to platforms. But here we have the same consigner, the same representative, using the same photos and the same copy on the same platform. And July 25th, JP, just so we're clear, was a Tuesday close. The car only got like 17 bids. It stalled out at $92,000 where it failed to sell. And they're running it back. I mean, I'm trying to do the math. That's like 10 weeks ago. And they're running it back exactly the same. And just to tease ahead, the car closes tomorrow, but it's already at $91,000 on 18 bids. So it's exactly the same money at exactly the same bid count, but it still has all of tomorrow to add. What, 50% to that number would be great for Shoddy, I think. But can we expect it to bring more second time around? It's so weird. I remember speaking to Shoddy when this closed the first time, and I called him, to empathize. I couldn't believe the car didn't break six figures because the photos are great. It's a reputable consigner, and this car has everything. They didn't skip. Shoddy didn't skimp on any of it. The cosmetics, the body, the aero, the wheels, the suspension, the motor, the interior. look, the seats have blue in them, which maybe aren't cohesive with the rest of the car, but that shouldn't prevent somebody from, bidding and saying, okay, well, I could just swap out and get the seats I want and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think the seats make the entire car polarizing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Especially not, you're not going to build this car, like you said, again, for under probably $150,000 or $200,000. So to swap the seats out, it is what it is. But the whole rest of the car is a 6-figure build and then some, and it's built well and tastefully and really well done.
Yeah.
Hey, does anybody know what mirrors those are? Because I need to buy a set. That set of mirrors is exactly what I need on my car, because my mirrors suck. So someone in the comments knows what that is. Someone let me know. I'd sure like to know.
Some early Ferrari 308 mirrors look like that, but they're not like that, because these are smooth and they look painted, and the early Ferrari ones have like kind of a black, I don't want to say corrugated, but like a real porous finish to them. But that's a really cool catch. The like RS mirrors stick to the windows and they don't come out as wide as these, but they have a similar sort of organic teardrop shape to them. But these are, I agree with you, JP. These are really cool mirrors.
Well, the thing about them is, so this car is not a long hood. It's not a backdate at all. It's just an RSR build. But my car is a backdate, and the thing that's cool about these is that it has that full base to it. Like the square base. So because when you take off the mirrors, like just the regular flag mirrors, my car is an 86, so it's got that square base. If you take the flag off, it's going to have 3 big holes in the door. And the earlier mirrors don't cover those holes. So you basically have to fill those holes in and repaint the door. Whereas this mirror it's reminiscent of the classic style, but it covers up that whole base, has the same kind of mount position. I've never seen that before, and I want them. That is not anything anyone really cares about. Just posted up here, Zach Miller's dipping out. Hey guys, got to leave the stream here in a minute. Thanks for engaging in the discussion about the 348 earlier. Appreciate the feedback and loves to be on the show sometime. We are definitely going to make that happen, Zach. Zach from Cars and Bids.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you very much, Zach, for chiming in and watching with us and for being candid. We super appreciate that. Frank Harrington is also here in the Bay Area. You may know him from another Pointless Automotive podcast. He is working now with Cars and Bids, and we'd like to get him on here as well. He's been given the green light to come on the show and speak freely with us as well, which we really appreciate. So we will get Frank Harrington on here from Cars and Bids as well. So, JP, shall we jump into some numbers on this?
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen?
All right, so I just want to reiterate that Shadi, who lives here in San Francisco, is as passionate and knowledgeable and cool a Porsche guy as there ever is. JP, I'm so glad you introduced me to a friend in my own hometown, which I love. He really commissioned a lot of the stuff that you see on this car. This car is his vision for an IROC build. He picked the wheels and the paint, and he commissioned getting the motor done. He picked out all the suspension and the shifter. This is truly his car, and it's as cool as it gets. And I cannot tell you why it failed to sell or why it didn't get the love on a Tuesday a couple of months ago. But I think this car, the writing is on the wall for it to bring, say, another 50% from where it's at right now. So it's at 90 grand. I'd say tack on another 45. I'm going to go big on this and say, against all odds, God is smiling and Shadi's going to do really well with it. And so I'm just going to go really big and say this car will bring $145,000 when it closes tomorrow. But I could be the only one out there. But again, if you're looking to build this car, the conversation starts over $200,000. I just think that's what the car is worth. And somehow, miraculously, it's going to find a way second time around. So, JP, go ahead and tell me I'm crazy and then give me your number. But I'm going $145,000 to you. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. Does this thing get to $150? Does it even break 6 figures? I mean, Sahan is like, hey, this car's great, but who wants to spend that kind of money right now? Sahan, if I didn't know that this car was already at 90 something right now as we speak, I'd be 100% with you, but it's not uncommon. In fact, it's very common for BAT listings to bring another 30, 40, 50% on the last day, sometimes even
Porsches.
100%, when we're talking about really nice Porsches. But unfortunately, I love Shotty. He's an awesome guy, and this car is fantastic. And, he's always the guy that shows up he's an old school, Three Pedal Posse guy. Shout out to Three Pedal Posse and Mauricio up in Seattle. I want this car to go big, but I think 140. I'm going to go just a little bit under you. What do you think, Wade?
This is really tough because arguably it is a six-figure car no matter how you spin it. The problem is that it already sold at a certain price, and I just don't know if failed to sell at a certain price. Yeah, and I don't know if somebody's gonna go back and say like, oh, it failed to sell at this price, it's actually worth $50K more. Like, yeah. I mean, unless something catastrophic happened during the auction, I think the number is what it is, and I don't think this car hits six figures, which is painful, and I think it might stall out at like $97,911. And I feel bad saying that, but it's tough right now.
Well, you got Anthony on here. He's with you. He thinks 99.5. He doesn't think it's going to break the six-figure mark. So, I think the herd is speaking here, but it will. I mean, and this thing is going to close tomorrow.
Another Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
I know.
This is crazy. I hate saying this out loud, but the news could be covered with like horrible things tomorrow. We are coming in off of a weekend of unspeakable terror in another place of the world, and there's going to be a response to that. And it's going to be all over the media everywhere. And we're not going to
get the stock market, right?
Right. I mean, it's going to be literally everywhere. We don't know we don't know what the response is going to be. But if you don't know what we're talking about, just, turn on the Twitter or, CNN or anything right now. All anyone's talking about is what's going on in the Middle East. There's going to be a response to what happened on Friday. And I would not want to have an auction ending this week. I just wouldn't. Because everything could be sidestep. I mean, to be like, oh yeah, if these auction sites were around back in 2001, and you're like, oh, my auction closes, let's hear what day? Oh yeah, Tuesday morning at let's hear noon. Yeah, okay, 2001. That would suck. I think that we are literally, there's that kind of potential coming this week. I'm not saying the sky's falling. Look, I hope I want to be wrong here, but there's a lot of talk about some crazy ish going down. What do you guys think of that? How will that affect the markets and price of cars?
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate timing. And the other aspect of this is something you said earlier on one of the other cars, is that, the season for these like secondary cars, these sports cars, is coming to a close. Most of the country won't be able to use their cars starting next month. And then they kind of put them away, JP, till like April or May. Yeah. So you're really, Shotty's car is I think a bespoke, really high tech, high content vehicle, but it really only appeals to the top 1%. They can afford to do this, even if the news is bad and the sky is falling. So I hope that he finds that. But unfortunately, it's entirely possible that 911R or BAT waited just a moment too long to rerun his car. We'll find out tomorrow. But I'm hopeful. I think the writing is on the wall since it's already at the price it failed at last time. I think that there's at least another 50% left in that one, and I'm hopeful that it does really well. And I want it to happen for him.
I mean, maybe somebody at Raytheon or Lockheed Martin is watching this and going, "Oh yeah, I got all kinds of money now."
Yeah. So mean, John.
Yeah,
all right,
mean to who? The executive at Lockheed Martin? I mean, screw those guys. Okay, so yeah, and then Sahan also hops in there with inflation, but I mean that's the drinking game. If you're watching this thing, someone's going to say inflation. It's usually me. And Sahan and I talk a lot. Sahan's price 115. All right, so I mean, most everyone in the nerd herd out there is pretty bearish. All of us on the panel have been much more bullish, but I think it's just because in general this bodes well for the car that it's this high the day before. We hope it doesn't flatten out. What do you guys think out there? If you're watching this not live, let us know in the comments below what you think this car will get bid up to. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas.
A new sports car!
While you were gone, we covered this really cool car, a 1982 Porsche 911 SC that has been built to be like an IROC, essentially. The car is on BAT. It belongs to a new friend of mine, but an old friend of JP's named Shadi, who lives here in San Francisco. And ironically, as JP introduced me to Shadi and I have like 250 mutual friends. It's amazing that we didn't know each other before John introduced us, but now we're like best buds, and I feel like I've known him forever. In any case, as we've been doing the show, Shadi's car ran without me noticing it about a month ago, and he failed to inform the bid nerds that the car was running. So we didn't cover it, we didn't give it any love. And so a month ago, this car ran and failed to sell at about $90,000 on BAT through the consignor 911R and through their Scottsdale, Arizona offices, which is where these photographs were taken. So when the car failed to sell, I commiserated a little bit with Shadi. We were all kind of scratching our head. We couldn't understand why it didn't even break $100,000. Like, it's okay if it misses the reserve, but like a car this nice with a 3.8 and the wide body, the suspension, the interior, the paintwork, the wheels, even the sort of GT3 exhaust, all of this stuff Shadi did to the car. And this car didn't even break 100, and it would cost you over $200,000, maybe $250,000 to rebuild it today. So interestingly, 911R hung onto the car in Scottsdale, talked to BAT, and they ran it a second time. So just to get you caught up, Mental, we covered the car and looked at it, and I started the bidding at $145,000. JP was optimistic, truly, but a bit more pragmatic and just simply took the under. But we were all hoping for Shadi, and because it's a nice car, that it would do well. Wade came in because he doesn't know Shadi, doesn't give a shit, and is a cold-hearted lizard. Spent $97,911, which I thought was brutal. Because when we were looking at it,
Tech Daily, you gonna take that kind of ish from?
I was thinking about this car after the show. I was like, you know what? I really was too harsh, but I'm hoping for some good news. Let's see.
But the car was at 94,000 when we covered it. So basically, Wade was saying it was only going to get like a bid or two more. And I think Wade was also taking into consideration the political and economic climate, the season being over, and the fact that it just ran again. There's decent reasons why Wade was super bearish on this one. But anyway, Mental, care to give it a shot. 82 back IROC build with a built 3.8, a 964.
He's been looking at the sheet the whole time.
Yeah, actually, but tell me what you think.
You as dumb as I am, I just didn't look at the price.
Mm-hmm. So tell me what you think. Tell me what you think it's worth.
It is
knowing that it ran again.
Car, yeah.
It ran a month ago and only made 90, and with the same photos and the same copy, written copy, and the same consignor, it is running identically again a month later. What do you think? And it was 94,000. It was 90 when it failed to sell last month. It was 94 when we covered it just a couple days ago, and it closed the following day. So what do you think happened, Mental? Give us a guess, and then let us know if anybody on the line is throwing numbers out. Several of the people did throw numbers at that time, but just curious to see if anybody would remind us what their bids were.
We've got Chris and Zach online. They are not throwing numbers out on this one. They probably knowing those two, they probably numbers. Watched it.
Chris and what do you guys think?
Yeah. And Mental, what do you think?
At this car. This is a gorgeous car, and it reminds me of the silver one that we profiled earlier. This is it's a driver's car, but it's a lot cleaner, and it is very reminiscent of JP's car, which I am a huge fan of. So I'm going to say this one, let's be optimists and say it went for 130.
Okay, 130,000. And then anybody chiming in, or we just go right to the result, JP? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'd say let's get a split screen. Let's talk about the results.
Okay, so interestingly, this car sold for $160,000 in 24 bids.
That is a score. Holy cow.
Meaning it got about $65,000 in bids on the final day of bidding. Unfortunately, I did not watch it. Who was it that sent it to me? Somebody sent it to me right when it closed. And then I immediately ran over and congratulated, what's his name? Shoddy. And he was super relieved because, this car had a long way to go when we were looking at it. And I felt like when we punched up our bids to 145,000, we were being eternally optimistic, but it went even further than that. And just goes to show you the bid nerd mojo is real. JP, can we take 100% of the credit, or are we just going to settle for like 95, 98?
Yeah, no, it's definitely all us. For sure.
No, it's only 90% because you didn't film it.
Yeah,
that's true.
All right.
Well, I mean, we kind of filmed it. We put it on the show. Good point there, Mental. No, look. I am so happy to see this result. We talked about this on Monday. We were all very scared of what was going on. There's a lot going on in the world. We are not going to try to solve the political and the problems in the Middle East are not going to be discussed on this show. But those are the types of things that are seeping into all kinds of other markets, but not nearly as much as you would think maybe. So we were all kind of worried at the time that, the next day, that this week we're going to, at any given day, we're going to see something crazy on the news all day, and that's all anyone's going to talk about, and no one's going to want to go and buy a cool car like this. But the beat goes on, man. This is a great number regardless. Even if there wasn't crazy stuff going on in the world, getting $160 for this car, I am still wanting to know why it didn't sell in the first place, why it failed to get above 90 the first time it ran. Do we have any insight to that, Michael Deeb?
No, Shoddy and I talked about it, and there was nothing untoward. It just didn't get any bids or any love with a Tuesday close a month ago. So
Shoddy didn't have any theories to that?
No, none. He was like, I also think he was a little, what do you call it? Like in shock.
Shell shock, yeah.
Because here, to preface this, Shoddy gave the car to a potluck consigner. Think of like your butts at Vegas Luxury Auto Gallery or whatever, but a smaller version of that. This guy in the South Bay near San Francisco Airport has a warehouse. He used to run Ferrari of San Francisco for 20 years, and now he's got his own warehouse full of consigned Ferrari and other supercars.
Let's be fair. Neither of those are pot lots. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, but you get the point, right?
Yeah.
It's a high touch pot lot. So, anyways,
there goes all our auto gallery fans.
Yeah. So this guy had Shoddy's car for most of a year, almost a year down there.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to sell it for, $130,000, $140,000. And with no luck. So he gives it to 911R, which I thought was a pretty good move.
Yeah.
And quite the investment, because I'm sure Shoddy had to pay to ship it out there. They run it and it doesn't get $100,000. So when I talked to Shoddy, I mean, he couldn't really form sentences when he was talking about the car. He was like, like he had nothing to say. And then unbeknownst to me, they decided to run it again. I caught it right away. I reached out to him as we got close and made sure that we covered it for him. And it's funny because initially, like a month ago when it ran, I was still in the mindset that, dude, us covering the car isn't going to do you any favors because it doesn't post until the next day. Like, it hadn't dawned on me that we were doing it live. Like, we had just started doing it live. And my mind hadn't adjusted to the fact that, yes, by covering the car, we would help it sell. So I will call Shoddy and let him know that we discussed it and we want to take all the credit. So there you
Absolutely. Wade, what do you think of this results? I mean, you're the one that's furthest off on this, but
I'm so relieved.
Was close to you, really, thinking.
Yeah. This was great. I'm relieved, and I'm really happy for your guys' friend. And honestly, it's one of those things where 99% of the time when you sell a car or attempt to sell a car that's very custom, that's very unique, that's very special, it almost never gets what the market said it was worth 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah.
With that being said, this is a car that obviously the auction or the day or whatever was happening in the news or the world in that moment, people just were not paying attention and the market got it wrong, obviously, objectively wrong. So I think that this is a big number for this car, but it's well deserving. And I think whatever happened to that first auction is a statistical anomaly that, right. I mean, we have no idea what happened, but it was just absolutely wrong.
Well, Deeb, you were just saying kind of under your breath there that the consigner before the current consigner
Right.
had it listed for only like 130-ish. And you know, I got to wonder if people were like, well, that's the car that was for sale over there, and they were asking, you know, somewhat, let's call it reasonable price at $130, or not even a reasonable price, but a lot of times dealers like that will way overprice stuff, knowing that someone's going to hit them at 100. You know, we're going to list it at 130, then someone's going to think, oh, they're going to get this big $20,000 discount, and everybody's happy. I suspect maybe that was the situation, that people were looking at the old ad and then saw the listing. Oh, that's the same car. It's really not worth that. Now they're trying, and it never sold when it was at the dealership. So there must be something wrong with it. It's that whole kind of like must be thing that gets attacked. It's the reason why when you go to list a car on any of these auction sites, whether it's Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, P-Car Market, Haggerty, maybe you can talk to this effect, Michael Deeb, but I'm pretty sure they all ask, is this car for sale anywhere else currently or within the last 3 months? And there's a little box, yes or no, right? And I suspect it's because if it has, the expectations are going to be lower for that car. They're going to be like, well, if you couldn't sell it on the open market, why do you think you're going to do better here? I wonder if it listed too closely, if the ad went up too closely to its previous well-exposed listing before. What do you think of that, Wade? Or Deeb? I'm sorry. Go ahead. You wanted to hop in first.
That's a really good comment, but by that same rationale, you just ran it a second time on BAT a month later and got almost twice as much money for it. So, I think that's a good take, JP. It wasn't listed like on Auto Trader. It was listed on a guy's website, you know, and
but in between that time, he had a month to kind of rally the troops and tell everyone, hey, it's Shoddy's car. I mean, because I didn't even hear about this the first time around, but the second time around, it was all over the place. And the fact that he, you know, a name like Shoddy's is significant. I mean, he knows a lot of people, and I think people just flat out missed it that it was his car. I think his name means something.
That's a good take. Sorry, Wade, I jumped in front of you again.
You're totally fine. I was going to say, you know, in this sort of market space, I know a lot of dealers and private sellers who do the same thing. They'll list it for a while, it'll be online, and they will do everything in their power to take that number offline. So you have no idea what the dealership had it listed for. They don't want that price anchor, you know, holding it in any way with the auction. I wouldn't doubt that maybe that person who consigned it the first time didn't do a very good job selling it at all. It may have been listed on a website somewhere that nobody's ever heard of. They didn't post it anywhere on social media, and they just missed the mark selling it. And I still firmly believe that something in the auction or the day or whatever really messed that up. Yeah. So I think altogether, this was probably the end result they should have got 3 or 4 months ago whenever it was listed.
The first time around,
and I'm really, really relieved that it hit it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially since it looks so much like my car, and maybe I'll sell it now. All right.
You know, what's interesting, John, is this car is no way in hell street legal in California. If I lived in Nevada, this is a car I would be very tempted to have made a pass at, especially knowing what he wanted for it originally. Like I could have, theoretically, Shoddy could have sold this car to me for, you know, a lot less than what he got for it here. It would have been a really, like, it's a car I would have loved to own. It's a beautiful build, and the performance must be insane. Plus, it would have been kind of funny if you and I had twinsies cars, you know?
Yeah, you just wanted a fat butt version of my car. I see how this works. Mental, any comments before we move on to the next car?
You know, it's a sexy beast.
Sexy beast, he says. All right, there it is. All right, well, that's Shoddy's car. Congratulations goes out to our good friend Shoddy. Chuck Burrows hopped in here on the comments saying that he saw Bidnerd sticker while he was taking a leak at Rensport. That's a heck of a lot better than seeing the stickers of Chef's little head that I personally put in a lot of urinals at Rensport. So we're glad you're
I put Bidnerd stickers. That means it's the same place I pissed, because I did the Bidnerds and you did the Chef's heads. That's for sure.
Nerd! Get those words